Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know.
On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say.
Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, together we go. Hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode. Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the land, together we go. Hand in hand, we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
What up, Twitch? What up, Black Math X? What up, Pharaoh? What up, Cicero? What up, Stellar Wingman? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my cheddar Reno? It's your boy. It's what up, 12 Doctor? Black Math, it's Slopocening. It's the Slopocalypse, the Slopocening. It's fun to make up words. All words are made up. Yeah. What a day, what a day, what a day. We definitely have some things to look at. What up, Andy? That question really is about whether or not you plan on. Oh, the boy is here. Whether or not you really want to run a local. You know what I mean? My Stampy Cam no work on this scene. Are we doing the thing where the camera doesn't work again on certain scenes?
I'm mortality is home entertainment? This cannot be the future! It can't.
And yet, well, shit. Sorry, Stampy, for some reason your camera isn't working. What up, Nemesis? Nemesis. Do-do-do. There it goes. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. All right, and do some Stampy snacks, and then we'll get into content. Stampy snacks. He loves them Stampy snacks. Literally only has one brain cell. Snacks it slid right under his nose. He missed it. You got it on the second pass, buddy. Good job, pal. Two more. What up, Leftist Corp? Hmm. 40 in a row. Just try not to catch any streams on your way through the parking lot. If you understood that reference. All right. Let us do the thing. Are you ready for horrors beyond human understanding? AI safety shakeup at top researchers quit OpenAI and Anthropic, warning of risks. What up, Chef?
Last week. This highlights growing tensions over safety.
No, why would I want the video to begin at the beginning? No, I definitely wanted to begin a few seconds in because, I'm like that. What up, Sir Didymus? I wonder if anyone has used those outdoor projection Christmas lights with different colored dots that rotate as an indoor cat toy. That would be neat. That bright light that keeps changing color down there actually projects lasers, but they move slow and Stampy lost interest. Also have this thing, which is a robot that the batteries are dead on, apparently. But when it works, it projects a laser. It like does the cat toy thing, but on its own. It was $30, marked down to like 20 something. It's entertaining. I remember when I was a kid going to the Buffalo Science Center and they had a laser on the table and it was like 3 feet long and it was this whole fucking thing. And now we live in a time where you go to the inexpensive stuff store and you can pick up a laser pointer for like $5. And that's where we're at. This was a laser toy. This is now a paperweight. But it can become a laser toy again. All right.
AI companies are facing a shakeup at the top research ranks with high-profile departures at both OpenAI and Anthropic over the last week. This highlights growing tensions over safety, ethics, and the pace of development. Scripps News business and tech correspondent Maura Barrett is live for us in Denver. And Maura, researchers are publicly raising alarms about where this technology is heading. What are some of the things that they are most concerned about?
Yeah, Andrew, this has been an interesting situation to watch unfolding just over the last several days and hitting very influential companies like OpenAI and Anthropic. And all of this is just kind of raising.
The sweater does look very soft, right? But the pattern was definitely a choice.
New questions about how people are squaring the work of this really quickly evolving technology. At OpenAI, former researcher Zoe Hitzig announced her departure in a guest essay in the New York Times. She warned that she's worried OpenAI is making similar mistakes that we saw Facebook did about 10 years ago when it comes to advertising. She wrote that building an advertising business on top of an unprecedented, quote, archive of human candor.
Unprecedented.
Or from people sharing medical fears to deeply personal thoughts, she says that this could create incentives to shape user behavior in ways that we don't have the tools to understand, let alone prevent. And then she went on to write that the erosion of OpenAI's principles to maximize engagement may already be underway. Meanwhile, over
Cicero, I try to allow people space, but yeah. If you're going to appear on TV, you have to take that kind of thing into consideration.
at Anthropic, the head of the Safeguards research team, also resigned, posting a letter on X where he wrote, "The world is in peril." His message wove a broader existential concern. He emphasized in the note, too, though, that it had become increasingly difficult to let organizational values truly govern actions. He went so far as to saying he's going to take a poetry class and become, quote, invisible for a bit.
I've seen too much. I need to take a poetry class. Even though it has a lack of color, that pattern reminds me of the Gordon knockoff of that shirt Theo. I understood that reference.
And so I think that just highlights the severity in which people who are faced with the real safety concerns internally at these companies may be feeling. And so all of these, too, though, are in tandem with departures from XAI, some other AI companies we've seen, X specifically facing backlash over its Grok chatbot, because you might remember the criticism of its ability to create and publish pornographic images, as well as those anti-Semitic comments that we've seen from the chatbot. And so all of this really just points to the imbalance, the growing discontent inside AI labs, who are tasked with balancing long-term safety, while also the company, the business side, has all this pressure to monetize and to ship products out and get these powerful tools in the hands of users that might be paying for it. And so these researchers are saying that these ethical guardrails might just be being weakened as the tech becomes more and more deeply embedded, more relied upon by consumers. And so there's a lot of concern internally at these AI companies that in tandem, in addition to those concerns, the AI systems are getting smarter faster than initially realized, which means that the job replacement concern is also a reality across industries. And so there's a plethora of issues that these safety researchers are considering as they're speaking out against what these AI companies are doing, Andrew.
Yeah, fascinating to see where this industry goes over the next few months, years, and longer. Scripps News business and tech correspondent Maura Barrett for us. Maura, thank you.
What up, Mints? Now that I'm looking at it longer, it reminds me of the fuzzy stickers that you had to color. Yes, yes. What up, Michael? I don't get why this is controversial. OpenAI offers both a free tier and a paid tier, and plenty of companies put ads in their free products, so why shouldn't an AI service be any different? That is one argument. What up, Straight Dope? The other aspect of it, though, is we're all gonna die. What up, El? The other aspect of it is Facebook became Facebook because it had access to so much data about you. So it was able to, at least theoretically, cater ads directly to you for both conventional capitalist purposes of trying to sell you a product, but also manipulation purposes through entities like Cambridge Analytica. The data that you were giving was the thoughts that you would put out into the world. Now, some of us do a better job of having an inside voice and an outside voice and not posting every goddamn thing we think to Facebook, but some people don't have that, and they give a tremendous amount of data to Facebook. The chatbots, the way that people, at least some people, are interacting with the chatbots is that they're talking to them like a very confidential friend. So if, now OpenAI claims that these are just ads, right? They're not targeted based on the conversations you've had. This is what they say. But if you have these personal internal thoughts that you might not express out in public, the ability to manipulate you on that level is much deeper. And That's why you might not want ads on that type of system. Not AI in general, but that particular, like Perplexity feels more like, like a search engine kind of thing. Claude Code, using it for coding, right? Like you're not having deep personal conversations with it. But ChatGPT, some people have deep personal conversations with it and express ideas that they don't necessarily want the world to know about, or even their friends, because of all the fears of being human. But again, that allows an avenue for advertising on a much deeper level that you're providing real-time feedback on. Yeah, and it's like you got it. To be fair, Didymus, it took me a minute because I used to like to argue with people on Facebook, but then you learn, right? Or maybe you don't. I mean, some people obviously have not, but I learned that like it wasn't accomplishing any goal, and it was actually probably doing harm both to myself and maybe even to the people that I'm attempting to convince. So I stopped doing that. Not everyone goes through that process though. Yeah. Up next, China kicking the United States ass in robotic workers. We'll know when the robot revolution is about to start when one of those researchers reaches to touch the part in the box that it just put the thing in there and it slaps their hand away. What do we got next? Why don't I have a next button? YouTube, what have you done? Where's my next button? Did you just crash my playlist? Okay. Um, the AI doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist, from Focus Features.
If this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong. What the?
Your fear of AI is the collapse of humanity.
Well, not the collapse, the abrupt extermination. There's a difference.
So I started making this movie because my wife is 6 months pregnant. It is now a terrible time to have a kid.
I mean, let's just be honest. I know people who work on AI risk who don't expect their children to make it to high school.
What the? How does AI understand pretty much everything?
It's surprisingly straightforward.
Intelligence is about recognizing patterns.
Patterns? Patterns.
Patterns. If you have learned those patterns, you can generate new information. AI is moving so fast.
It's being deployed prematurely. There's so much potential for things to go wrong.
Why can't we just stop? All
All these companies are in a race
to get AI that's vastly more intelligent than people within this decade.
China, North Korea, Russia.
Whoever wins is essentially the controller of humankind.
We need to take a threat from AI as seriously as global nuclear war.
It feels like I have to find these CEOs and get them in the movie.
Hey,
I
good
want to
job,
ask you
buddy.
to promise me that this is going to go well.
That is impossible.
Okay. Am I hopeful? Yes. Am I confident that it'll go right? Absolutely not.
AI is the thing that can solve climate change.
We could cure most diseases.
What if it's expanding what is humanly possible?
This is the most extraordinary time ever. The only time more exciting than today is tomorrow.
I already love you.
Okay.
I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
By using AI, we're about to move off of the Earth into the...
What up, serotonin? Somebody made a movie. Somebody made a documentary.
Cosmos.
If we can be the most mature version of ourselves, there might be a way through this.
Yeah, okay. I try to avoid the whole shitlib moniker and all that. Like I don't find it particularly helpful or anything else like that. But fucking Tristan Harris is the most shitlib I have ever fucking encountered, dude. He is so fucking annoying, and I wish he would just stop. If you ever watched the fucking Social Dilemma, you know what I mean, right? Because the through line for, despite being like having some good information, but presenting it in a really just absolutely nonsensical way, the Social Dilemma said that the problem with social media and things like Facebook is that they were capitalisming wrong. They were capitalisming too hard. And not what it should be is that Facebook is the inevitable result of capitalism, right? Getting the ability to advertise to people on a as personal a level as you can is the wet dream of every capitalist selling a product to the public, right? The more I know about you and the more I can cater particular products to what you're looking for, the better off I'm going to be as a capitalist. I'm going to spend my money more effectively. I'm going to get my products in front of people who might actually buy them, all that kind of thing. And that's the through line of the Social Dilemma, that they went too hard and everything could have been fine, but they capitalism wronged and they're bad because they capitalism wronged, as opposed to it's just the inevitability of it all.
This is the last mistake we'll ever get to make.
Cool. Look forward to that. Up next, what up, Beef? What's the likelihood that Altman is right and we're going to be looking at a lot of jobless people by 2028, or is he just trying to generate hype for money? What up, Ribbons? Okay, one, those things are not mutually exclusive, right? Like, that's always bear that in context, is that the people who are saying those things are also saying that we would like more money, please. strangely enough, Beef, the next video we're about to watch is the AI productivity boom shows up, right? And it's really about rate of adoption, social inertia, and the like ability for human beings to accommodate these tools within our workspaces and still maintain the job, right? These tools are already capable of helping with a lot of tasks. Some of the things I've seen is that people are not particularly motivated to use the tools in a way that benefits the company. They are using the tools in ways that benefit them. You know what I mean? And it's fair, Beef. It's fair. Speaking of anxious, so last night, my wife and I chilling in bed. We've been watching Hannibal, the Hannibal series. This is my third time watching it. Her first. Highly recommended. Still holds up. Second season is best. Third and first are worth watching. Just for the completion of it all. And it's an encapsulated story. You get an entire thing. Highly recommended. But we're watching Hannibal, and we start seeing like flashing lights on the edge of the window. So we go and we take a look outside, and there was a lot of like flashing light in the sky. Now obviously turned out it was a thunderstorm. But there was a very, very real moment that we both had that like this was it, right? This is like, there goes Rochester, there goes Niagara Falls. The bombs are falling. Everything they prepared us for in high school, we need to hide, or grade school, we need to hide under our desk. It's nuclear wartime. Because of the way the lightning was happening, and there was fog and dense cloud, and you couldn't really hear the thunder, right? It was bright lightning without the thunder. It was there, but it was happening like a long distance away, it felt like. It sounded like. But in here, for that one moment, that was happening, right? And then also, or maybe this is the aliens, right? Maybe this is the aliens. Like when, what up, queer sociology? When you saw the ships enter the atmosphere and create that bow wave of clouds and whatnot, that also, you know, that could be a thing, right? Like, maybe the aliens are showing up. Ooh, it was a lot. It was a lot. It took it took a few minutes to get back to watching the show. That was the whole thing. My view, if AI automates most or even all jobs, it could level the playing field for disabled people. People on government assistance are currently stigmatized, but if universal basic income becomes the norm for most of the population, that stigma, the animosity tied to it, would likely decrease. Yes, there is a window for that, right? Like in any situation, towards the end of James's stream, he was talking about how like chuds don't really change their mind until they're confronted with something that personally affects them. This is that same kind of thing, kind of in the inverse, right? The the way that people can feel, what are biggest events, if they find themselves in that situation, they can become more empathetic to the other people around them. They also cannot, right? They also have a habit of like compartmentalizing those feelings and like, I don't want the government giving out money to people now. Give me my social security check kind of thinking, right? But I try to err on the positive, Michael. Like that's where because it's real easy to go into doomerism. And if you want a better world, you have to start by imagining that better world, Serotonin, I'm just as you find me. All right, so let's see about the AI productivity boom. A thing that people told us isn't happening.
Today on the AI Daily Brief, today we're discussing how AI's impact on productivity is finally showing up in actual economic data. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. The single big overarching theme that we've been tracking throughout this year is the sense among many, the AI builders and the most enfranchised AI users.
And this is speaking directly to what you just asked about, but not Altman saying it, but Dario Amodei saying it.
That a key inflection point has been hit. That the transformation in the capability set of the latest generation of models, plus the tooling and products that we put around them, have in core ways shifted just how much we can do with AI.
I'm with you, Serotonin. I bought a device that if there's no air fryer instructions, boneless buffalo chicken, are they popcorn sized? If they're popcorn sized or like nugget sized, go 380 for 8 minutes, see how they are then, and then bump it up by a couple of minutes, if they're not done. Mine is, no, chicken nuggets are flat. Popcorn chicken are roundish. The setting for nuggets on mine is 380 for 10 minutes. Yeah, go 380 for 8 minutes and see where you're at. There are conversion guides and recipes, but that should be like get you in the ballpark. And then you'll know you're doing science at this point. And then you just do it like 1 minute at a time until it's where it ought to be. A friend of mine got one of them fucking on the counter ice cream maker fucking things, right? Like the Ninja one that's like $300-400. And there's like, I want one, but I don't $300-400 want one. I was at Savers and I got the Cuisinart joint, which is like a $250 ice cream machine for $40. And I was going to do that today, but I ran out of time.
AI. Alongside that discourse has been an invigorated conversation about AI's potential impact on workers, particularly white-collar workers. There are some, like Andrew Yang, who have long beat this drum, who are now getting even louder.
Or people not like Andrew Yang. Fuck that guy. Because not only was his UBI plan terrible, but also, like, he wasn't even the first person. Now, for the normies, he was probably the first person to really put it in the public consciousness, and I'll give him that. But at the same time, still, fuck that guy.
A week ago, Yang wrote about the market's reaction to Anthropic releasing plugins for functions like legal, finance, sales, and marketing. And this week, he paired it with a new piece called The End of the Office. He wrote,
Sir Didymus, you have to take out this thing, put it in the freezer for like 24 hours. Then you make the ice cream and, put it in bowls or cones or whatever you want. And then you have to clean all the parts, and there are a whole bunch of parts that need to be cleaned. So there's just enough friction there that no, I will not be having any kind of ice cream anytime I want. But I got strawberries and high protein yogurt. And I'm going to make strawberry frozen yogurt with the high protein. 28 grams, of protein per serving. So I'm doing my best to try and err. And I've also I got no sugar barbecue sauce and no sugar coffee creamer. Two things that I consume a lot. And I'm trying to reduce the amount of sugar that I intake on a daily basis.
Someone in my family had AI program a website for them this week. It completed in minutes what used to take a designer or a firm days of work. How many roles essentially consist of processing information and then presenting it to someone to make a decision? Now, not only the process and report will be automated, but perhaps the decision as well. This will result in the great disemboweling of white-collar jobs. Now, it's not as though the
great disemboweling is very evocative imagery.
Job displacement conversation has ever been far from view when it comes to AI, and throughout 2025, it did accelerate at least a little bit. The loudness and vigor of the conversation tended to be tied to our sense of how fast agentic capabilities were evolving, which is why, of course, this year, as we turn the corner on agents, the tone has gotten so much more dire. And yet the tone is important. We are still largely having this conversation on the basis of anecdote. It's Andrew Yang talking about his family building something that they would have had to hire someone for before, and extrapolating that out to everything. The more urgent the conversation gets, the more important it becomes to move out of this paradigm of anecdotes and suppositions.
On a long enough timeline, theoretically, Michael, most so the Cuisinart machine, mostly plastic. You could run that on a 3D printer. The only things that you would run into are like the motor and the thing that makes the ice cream cold, right? Those are the two things, because it contains that liquid that's not water in a metal container. But anything made out of plastic, you could absolutely, on a sufficiently long enough timeline, 3D print all the parts, and then the robot could assemble it. And then the robot would also be doing the 3D printing. Also, the 3D printers that they got out now, my boss has one, and you can barely feel any of the layer lines, right? Like, we are some distance away from that having to sand everything kind of fucking vibe. Wild.
Positions and theories, and into the realm of actual evidence. One of the early attempts to quantify AI labor disruption came from the Yale Budget Lab and the Stanford Digital Economy Lab last August. The study was called Canaries in the Coal Mine and sought to map changes in hiring practices across different sectors to their exposure to AI disruption. Now, the study had a lot of problems, which I covered in detail at the time. Chief among them was that the change in hiring practices began around the release of ChatGPT in November 2022, long before large companies were actually using the technology at any sort of scale. Still, the paper did show that whatever the cause...
I thought Yang was... They were talking about UBI. They were talking about giving everybody $1,000. Some, alternative to the two-party duopoly, all that kind of horseshit. I took a bite at that hook as well, serotonin. It's just when you start to peel back the layers, it's like, oh, it's $1,000 in place of everything else. Well, that's not actually going to do the thing you claim it's going to do. That's actually going to suck worse.
White-collar hiring incontrovertibly had slowed down since then, particularly for younger workers. Now, one of that paper's authors believes he's seeing the first real signs of AI productivity showing up in the macro data. Now, at first blush, this might not be particularly surprising to you. Very few people are arguing that AI isn't extremely transformative in how we do work, or that it's not going to increase productivity. The conversation tends to be more about whether it does so fast that it actually causes massive disruption. And yet, at basically every technology paradigm shift in the past, there has been a massive lag between when the technology comes on the scene and when the productivity increase actually shows up in the numbers. You might have heard this famous quote from Robert Solow: "You can see the computer age everywhere but in the productivity statistics." This was from 1987, and it came after a couple of decades of businesses investing in IT infrastructure. Now, at the end of the 90s, we did see a big productivity jump, but we haven't seen something in the last 20 years in the wake of the Web 2 mobile and social era. In fact, productivity growth has been lower than the historical pattern. If then AI is already showing up in the productivity numbers, that would in fact be a major break from the past. and a major indicator of just how different this technology shift might be. In an opinion piece in the Financial Times, Stanford economist Eric Brynjolfsson argues that a recent revision to labor statistics implies the U.S. is in the midst of a massive AI productivity boom. He points to the Bureau of Labor Statistics revising last year's job numbers down, which removed some 400,000 jobs from the statistics. Instead of 584,000
The graph, Leftist Corp, the infamous graph, the graph.
Jobs created in 2025, net job gains are now believed to be just 181,000. Brynjolfsson notes, however, that despite that downward revision, GDP figures for last year remained incredibly strong. We don't yet have the final numbers for Q4, but provisional statistics have growth at 3.7%. The Atlanta Fed's GDP Now forecast is even higher at 5.4%. Coupled with very strong growth at 4.4% in Q3, last year looks to be an incredibly strong year overall for the U.S. economy. Now, of course, we are talking in very macro terms, not at all getting into the lived experience of the economy for people, which is a whole different story, but this has some pretty meaningful implications for productivity stats. On this macro level, productivity is simply GDP divided by the number of workers in the economy. Thus, when we got that downward revision of the workers, it implies much stronger productivity. Brynjolfsson estimates that last year's productivity growth will come in at 2.7%, which is almost double the average pace over the past decade. According to Brynjolfsson, this shift in the data would solve the conundrum put by Apollo chief economist Torsten Slok, who wrote in a weekend note referencing that same quote that I did, AI is everywhere except in the incoming macroeconomic data. Slok added, maybe there is a J-curve effect for AI where it takes time for AI to show up in the macro data. Maybe not. This J-curve idea actually featured prominently in Brynjolfsson's research over the past year, and he believes that we may now be reaching an inflection point.
Serotonin, it's also like there are some questions as to the economy, TM, because of, how much a small part of the economy might be, probably is, covering up the rest of the economy, right? Like the GDP economy, TM, not the real economy where you buy food, but the TV economy.
Paper from all the way back in October of 2018, Brynjolfsson and his colleagues wrote about the productivity J-curve. Hilariously, the abstract of the paper focused...
That's another thing, Chef, right? Like, getting an LCD, LED screen was like, that was a big deal, right? What up, Zach? And now, yeah, I've got one on my vape. You know what I mean? It does a happy little cartoon that you can't really see because it's all washed out on the camera. But yeah, it's still partly disposable, but the battery portion with the LCD screen, or I think it's LCD, the screen on it, is separate from the tank. So not only does that continue to give me like multiple flavors that I can swap in and out of, but it allows me to keep the battery for a longer period of time. And I haven't like gone through all of any of the tanks yet because I just keep sweeping or swapping one for the other.
Focuses on general purpose technologies, or as they put the acronym, GPTs. Yes, indeed, this was when the vast majority of people had never heard of OpenAI, much less interacted with one of their GPT models. In any case, Brynjolfsson and his
it's called Offstamp. The name of the company is Offstamp.
Colleagues write in the paper, general purpose technologies such as AI enable and require significant complementary investments, including co-invention of new processes, products, business models, and human capital. These complementary investments are often intangible and poorly measured in the national accounts, even when they create valuable assets for the firm. We develop a model that shows how this leads to an underestimation of productivity growth in the early years of a new general-purpose technology, and how later, when the benefits of intangible investments are harvested, productivity growth will be overestimated. In his piece this week for the Financial Times, he harkens back to this, saying, general-purpose technologies from the steam engine to the computer do not deliver immediate gain. During this phase, measured productivity is suppressed as resources are diverted to investments. The updated 2025 US data suggests we are now transitioning out of this investment phase into a harvest phase where those earlier efforts begin to manifest as measurable output. Brynjolfsson pointed to the slowdown in hiring for AI-exposed industries from his prior work as further proof of this phenomenon. He concluded, "We are transitioning from an era of AI experimentation to one of structural utility. We must now focus on understanding its precise mechanics. The productivity revival is not just an indicator of the power of AI. It is a wake-up call to focus on the coming economic transformation." One of the things that I expect that you'll see a lot, especially as people get louder about their assertions about how powerful AI has become, is that the chorus of people who want to say it's actually not all that good, and everyone who says different is just a hype boy, will get even louder. Sometimes those voices will come from people who get paid for making speeches and being the one token AI skeptic on the panel, but sometimes there'll be folks like the Apollo chief economist.
Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, so play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid. Just like that, out of the fucking blue. Critacular? Thank you. Thank you for just dropping in and subbing up out of nowhere. That was as well appreciated and shocked everybody and ripped serotonin. Sorry, homie. Yeah, no, thank you for the sub. That's the rare person who subs who has never subbed before. They weren't gifted a sub, they never had a sub, they just got one.
What Eric Brynjolfsson then is arguing is that if this productivity enhancement is really showing up in the data, it undercuts a big part of those skeptical arguments. And it's not just Eric. Many other economic commentators share this read on the data. As soon as the jobs revision hit, economic opinion writer Noah Smith commented, "This means there's actually a huge productivity boom underway, by the way. It's AI." Alex Emas, a professor at the University of Chicago, referenced an article he wrote in late January, which
like before, I will fight the fight and win the war. Kelly Fox, 7 months. Appreciate you, homie.
Said, bottleneck tasks will slow down the emergence of AI gains in the aggregate data, but organizational restructuring, training, and improvement in tools will reveal the productivity impact sooner rather than later. After seeing these latest numbers, he commented, "I guess sooner came pretty quickly."
And that's exactly where mine is at. Chicken nugget sized pieces of frozen chicken, 380, 10 minutes appears to be correct. Across, I don't even know what kind of air fryer you have, right? Like it's just across the thing.
Not everyone, though, agrees. Economist Guy Berger posted, "I'd be careful about drawing this inference from that data point. May turn out to be true, but it's very thin evidence." Guy pointed to the actual revised statistics to see where jobs were being added and removed. By and large, this revision was about removing government workers from the DOGE cuts as well as counting additional layoffs in mining and logging, transportation, and the manufacturing sector. Brynjolfsson had used his own paper as evidence that the layoffs were happening in AI-exposed industries, but at least for these numbers, that just doesn't seem to be the case. Now, however much this particular set of evidence actually points to AI disruption, the discussion is one that's clearly on the rise, and the sense that U.S. white-collar sectors are having a hard time is...
Yeah, it's a electric counter convection oven is basically what it is. But it's better than a regular fryer, and it does save you a bunch of time. It does use much more electricity.
Doing nothing but growing. The Kobayashi letter wrote on Monday, U.S. white-collar hiring is extremely weak. There are now just 1.6 job openings per 100 employees in the professional and business services sector.
And not to harp on this shit again, but James was watching the fucking video with the people talking about the increase in their electrical bill and all that. Did you buy anything, sir? Right? Like, did you happen to get a new air fryer that you're using all the time? Have you switched over from gas to electrical power on any of your, mechanicals, any of that kind of thing? I would like some more context, please. Dude, do not get me started on people who put shit in their air fryer basket. It is like, I feel like it's fake. What up, Nick? Air fryer is great. Just make sure you get one that is easy to clean. Mine is like a mini oven style. It's like got a fold down door, nice big inside. It can actually dehydrate and other shit like that. It's got a variety of different settings.
Lowest in the last 11 years.
Oh, you wait.
This ratio has more than halved since 2021 and is even lower than the 2020 pandemic bottom. For
serotonin. I have seen things. I have seen people fill the basket with cracked eggs, right? Like they're making scrambled eggs, but like a lot of them in the air fryer, in the basket. They just fill it up. Your sheet is not going to do a damn thing. What up, Textilian?
Furthermore, the ratio of unemployed to job openings in the industry is
they sell little parchment paper or silicone parchment paper sheets that you could put in the bottom of an air fryer to keep the grease from getting on the bottom of the air fryer. Yeah, I mean, it's all like, would you rather have the waste of throwing out the parchment paper grease shield or spend the 20 minutes cleaning the inside of the fryer basket, right? Like where are your value sets,
is down to 4%, nearly matching 2020 lows. This comes as total job openings in the sector are down 1.4 million since the March 2022 peak to 1 million, the lowest since May 2020. Over the same period, the hiring rate is down 1.8 percentage points to 4.2%, in line with levels seen during the 2008 financial crisis. Summing up, they said,
I am not doing like on today's random thing that chat obsesses about and we have to have a long discussion on. This is not going to be it. I'm not going to do it. The homie Nabil, how you doing?
The U.S. white-collar recession is accelerating. Politicians on both sides of the partisan divide are starting to speak up, with some even reacting to Matt Schumer's viral article, "Something Big is Happening." Republican Jay Abernathy said, "I think it's something that's healthy to talk about." The Post says, "Fundamentally, we should be afraid because AI is going to be disruptive and there's going to be a lot of job displacement. That is something we know to be true." Abernathy has a master's degree in AI and has worked in the tech industry for 3 decades, so he's naturally skeptical that massive disruption will cause irreparable.
I love when different ones of you reach the same point in the thought process at the same time.
Harm. He continued, "The other thing that the Post says is people are going to have fewer jobs as a result of artificial intelligence. The historical record says that is absolutely not true. What isn't up for debate, though, is the idea that a major labor force disruption is coming one way or another," with Abernathy adding, "There will be job displacement. We need to reskill the workers that are in industries with that job displacement and equip them with the skills that they need to succeed in other industries. We are going to need a social safety net because there will be people that fall through the cracks." Coming from a very different
or a social safety net because the cracks are actually a feature, not a bug.
Different political base, Senator Elizabeth Warren said, "I'm deeply concerned about AI and what it's going to mean when people go out one day for lunch and come back and their jobs aren't there anymore, and that happens to millions and millions of people. Now is the moment when we need to be preparing." Ultimately, to understand what's actually happening, it's just going to...
And the other thing, Ribbons, is a lot of people have a mindset that the can't do my job mindset, right? The immigrants can't do my job, the AI can't do my job. You saw it in construction a lot, right? The immigrants thing, right? That the dudes who only spoke Spanish and they had one dude who spoke English on the team and they would come in and they would knock shit out. It's the same argument talking about cheap Chinese crap. It was the same argument talking about that the gas from the native reservation had water in it. It's the same racist bullshit, right? And I'm not equating those humans to AI. I'm talking about the people who have that kind of view tend to also view AI as like, well, it can't do my job because I'm a special, unique fucking snowflake and I'm amazing at this shit, etc., etc., etc. They are not going to give the proper credence. They're the same people who, like, when an actual good thing at making jobs more streamlined comes in, are highly resistant to engaging with that new tool because, oh, I know everything, right? Like, I already, we don't need to make a change. I already have it. It's like, fuck that. What up, humanity? Zach dispelled my data center fears. There are legitimate concerns around data centers, but like a bunch of them are cherry picking data. I want to share some news. A friend of mine who's, oh yeah. If you want to go ahead and drop that link in chat, you feel free, Nabil. Like, go ahead and drop that. This is a homie of a homie, so if you want to check out their video on YouTube, give it some, give it some love, some support, be greatly appreciated.
To take a lot more data and understanding. In addition to that Financial Times piece, Brynjolfsson and his colleagues also recently circled back to their Canaries in the Coal Mine paper and wrote a follow-up responding to some of the responses. Brynjolfsson tweeted, "Since our paper, there has been an explosion of research seeking to assess the relationship between AI and employment, specifically for early career workers in highly exposed occupations, where we found some of the most striking effects. While several studies have confirmed our initial findings, others have raised questions in two areas in particular. One, can the sharp increase in interest rates in 2022 explain the employment effects we observed better than AI exposure? Two, is the overall timing of the employment effects consistent with AI exposure?"
So, y'all, support homies helping homies. Click the link, subscribe to the channel, give it a listen. Spread it out. Find someone, even if it's not your vibe, find someone whose vibe it is that you know, and pass it on to them. Right? That's how this works. People want to talk about, like, how do people get their music, their art, their whatever out there, especially in these times. This is one of those ways.
They said in a follow-up note that in brief
I'm pretty sure everybody who's here is following me, Ben, but if you're not, you should click that follow button. It's free and it validates me as a human being. Actually, it doesn't, but I appreciate it when you do that. We're closing in on 1,800 followers, which is kind of wild to me. I now have more followers on Twitch than I do on TikTok, and that's kind of cool. And you could be the next one.
They find that, one, while interest rates affect,
and I'll sing you a little song,
affect overall employment, existing evidence
I have laser eyes now. In the future, you just have to upgrade yourself.
It's true.
Not suggest they are a good explanation for the disproportionate decline in entry-level hiring in AI-exposed occupations. Two, they said, we do find suggestive evidence that when you include the broadest set of controls.
And I think that, Nabil, that speaks to, like, my position on people using AI, regular folks using AI, is that, like, this should give you the ability to cross those gaps that you wouldn't be able to cross otherwise. You know what I mean? Like the music that I made, the Army of the 12 Monkeys thing, that whole album that I'm working on, is, if I wanted to actually make that happen, it would cost me thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? In order to get the musicians and the singer and the production equipment and the studio time and everything else to do that thing. And, like, I listen to this shit. It sounds great in the car, right? It sounds great when speakers that have the good bass, you know what I mean? Like, it gives me the chance to do something I've always wanted to do and just am never going to have the money to do.
The timing of the employment decline in AI-exposed occupations becomes significant only in 2024. Some of the earlier declines are likely due to a combination of factors, not just AI. No one right now can claim to fully understand everything that's happening. But I'm encouraged that as we head early into 2026, We're seeing more work like the Haas AI study that found that people using AI actually spent more time on task, and that Brookings research that we talked about a few weeks ago that looked not just at which jobs were most likely to be disrupted, but which workers had the best capacity to adapt to displacement. At the end of the day, whether you are pessimistic or optimistic, and obviously you know which side of that I fall on, change is not only coming, it is here. Navigating it well is going to take everything we've got.
Yeah, Ribbons, I guess I'm not a real leftist. Have fun at your webinar, Stellar. I hope it is painless.
And for now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace. Today we're discussing...
Now we're doing the other video you saw there, how people actually use AI agents. Again, a person commented on one of my videos on YouTube telling me that no one is adopting AI agents, so obviously everything you're going to hear in this video is propaganda, lies, a scam, or some shit like that, as opposed to the actual ground truth that this person didn't want to engage with. Because they're definitely like someone on the internet with a valuable opinion.
A new study from Anthropic that, while nominally about agent autonomy, is actually much more about how people are using AI agents in practice. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today we are looking at a new Anthropic study on agent autonomy.
I will say this, Leftist Corp, the last time we saw a dude's face, he had fixed his white balance and didn't look as washed out. And also, even though he's using light mode as opposed to dark mode, he learned to turn the brightness down on that as well. So it's not as much of a flashbang.
It's called Measuring AI Agent Autonomy in Practice. And in many ways, it ends up actually being a case study in how agent behavior is changing. After reading it, I couldn't help but feel like it was a profile of a changing market where more and more of the tasks are moving outside of coding or engineering.
What up, Walking Stick? There will always be an alternative. That's that's something that people are realizing more and more every day, is that yes, your favorite tool may end up behind a paywall, but someone has something comparable that is available for free, and it's just figuring out how you need to access.
And more of the agentic work is being done by people who are not themselves engineers. Now, to set this up, I think it's useful to have as a comparison the most frequently discussed study on agent autonomy. That is, of course, the meter study, the chart of which I'm sure you've seen before, that measures AI's ability to complete long tasks. The metric that they created is basically a measurement of the duration of a task that AI can complete at a certain level of success. It is not, and this is something that people frequently get wrong, a direct measure of how long an AI agent can work for. Instead, it is a measure of the duration of task as it would take a human. So when, for example, GPT 5.2 High comes in at 5 hours, that's not that GPT 5.2 High took 5 hours to complete a task, it's how long that task would have taken a human. What's more, Meter has two success metrics, 50% success and 80% success, neither of which would be sufficient performance for a real-world context. In other words, you're not going to keep an employee around who completes tasks at a 50% success rate.
I am pressing X to doubt.
Still, I've always thought that this meter metric was really valuable. In my estimation, it doesn't matter so much whether 50% or 80% success is the core number. It's that it's consistent and
What up, Skibby Goober? You see, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, there are people who definitely complete tasks at a 50% success rate, but are just they're good at, keeping that job, right? They're well liked by their teammates. They're well liked by the bosses. They're just not actually good at, getting things done more than 50% of the time.
Applied consistently over time to different models. So ultimately, what is this trying to get at? Well, it's trying to measure agent autonomy. And so why does autonomy matter? Autonomy matters as it shapes what agents can do. The more autonomous...
Also, I do not approve of this picture. This was a stylistic choice.
An agent is, the greater the capability it has to complete long-duration tasks with high success rates, the wider and more complex the array of use cases that it can be valuable for. That matters on an individual level in terms of what work you can outsource to an agent, on an org level in terms of which sets of tasks or which entire functions can be agentified, and on a societal level as it has big impact when it comes to the job disruption conversation. Yet despite meter being a very valuable and oft-cited metric, indeed last year during the height of the bubble times, people joked that this chart was keeping the entire industry on its back, as it was the one thing that suggested that there was no plateau on progress, which was maybe the chief piece of evidence that the bubblists were looking for. And yet there are, of course, limitations of their methodology. As Anthropic puts it, the meter evaluation captures what a model is capable of in an idealized setting, with no human interaction and no real-world consequences. And that, of course, is not how people actually use agents in practice. To understand how people use agents in practice, one of the best places to look is Claude Code. For all intents and purposes, I think one can argue that Claude Code is the first agent with product-market fit. In fact, many people have noted that Claude Code is better thought of not as a coding tool per se, but instead as a code-enabled general-purpose agent. And that brings us to Anthropic's study, Measuring AI Agent Autonomy in Practice. Now, although Anthropic has access to pretty unique data in this regard, there are still some challenges. First of all, there's the question of
to understand how people use agents in practice, look at this picture. Look at this photograph.
What is the definition of an agent? Since this is a constant source of debate, Anthropic decided to go with a definition that is, as they put it, conceptually grounded and operationalizable. An agent is an AI system equipped with tools that allow it to take actions. As they point out, studying the tools that agents use tells us a great deal about what they are doing in the wild. In terms of sources, they pulled from the public API as well as Claude Code. And going back to this idea of tools, for the public API data, they say, rather than attempting to infer our customers' agents' architectures, we instead perform our analysis at the level of individual tool calls. They write, this simplifying assumption allows us to make grounded, consistent observations about real-world agents, even as the context in which those agents are deployed varies significantly. The limitation, they note, is that they have to analyze actions in isolation rather than understand how those individual actions combine into a larger whole. The second source of data is Claude Code. And what makes Claude Code super valuable for this study is that because it is their own product, they can understand an entire agent workflow from start to finish. The challenge, of course, is that it doesn't have the same diversity of use cases necessarily as their API traffic. Now, one last note on the methodology. When trying to figure out how long agents actually run for without human involvement, in Claude Code, they're using turn duration. Basically, how much time elapses between when Claude starts working and when it stops. One note they make is that when it comes to the average, most Claude Code turns are very short. The median turn lasts around 45 seconds, and that's been fairly consistent over the past several months. Instead, then, they look at the signal at the very end of the long tail, basically the 99.9th percentile turn duration, with the argument being that these are the most advanced users, or at least the most advanced uses, and in that way are more likely to reveal what the end duration of the capability set really is. So looking at that 99.9th percentile turn duration, there are two really interesting phenomena over the past few months. In the period between October and January, basically from when Sonnet 4.5 launched through when
the distance between the marks on the bottom, if you can't see, are 15 days. Like the one all the way over to the left is October 1st, 2025. The one all the way over on the right is February 15th, 2026.
Opus 4.5 launched in November, average turn duration at that percentile jumped from 25 minutes to 45 minutes. Interestingly, they note that the increase is smooth across model releases, suggesting that autonomy is not purely a function of model capability. And indeed, I think that's one of the big themes of this research, is that when we try to understand agent autonomy, we have to think beyond just model to the entire context in which a model operates, including the human interactive context. The second really interesting period in this chart is the period over the last 6 weeks or so, when there was actually a bit of a dip backwards from the peak of over 45 minutes down to something that's closer to 40. They identified two theories for why what was a previously pretty smooth curve has now leveled out and in fact gone down a little bit. The first is a shift in what projects people were using Claude Code for. The argument is basically that over the holidays, people had sort of broader range exploratory things that they were doing for their own gratification or hobbies, whereas when they
I'm going to go with OpenClaw. Right? I think that this driver here was OpenClaw, and when it dropped down, it was because people were burning through a lot of tokens, getting those getting those API call hits to their credit card or bank account, and started to change the way that they were using Claude, but are now like back on, like with the new Opus drop here right at the bottom of this dip, and then starts going up again. That's my guess.
Minutes down to something that's closer to 40. They identified two theories for why what was a previously pretty smooth curve has now leveled out and in fact gone down a little bit. The first is a shift in what projects people were using Claude Code for. The argument is basically that over the holidays, people had sort of broader range exploratory things that they were doing for their own gratification or hobbies, whereas when they came back, they had, as they put it, more tightly circumscribed work tasks. The second piece, however, is that between January and mid-February, the Claude Code user base doubled, which is obviously a phenomenon that we've been tracking closely here. A doubling like that is naturally going to bring with it a more diverse user base that's going to reshape the distribution a little bit. And indeed, maybe the most interesting thing about this study to me is not just the raw measure of capability, but the human interaction measures. A lot of this story is the difference between new users and power users. One of the interesting findings is that users at the beginning of their Claude Code journey use the full auto-approval features less than more experienced users. New users use full auto-approval roughly 20% of the time, which roughly doubles to 40% for more experienced users. Claude Code's default settings require users to manually approve each action, and so Anthropic suspects that what we're seeing is a steady accumulation of trust. At the beginning, you approve things each time, and then as you dial in your settings and you start to learn to trust the model, you give it that auto-approval more frequently. At the same time, approving actions isn't the only way that people supervise Claude Code. Users can also interrupt Claude while it's working to reorient it or give it feedback, and that kind of follows the opposite pattern. Newer users interrupt Claude around 5% of the time, while more experienced users interrupt it around 9% of the time, almost double. Now, one part of this might just be a shift in where people put the burden of oversight. If new users are approving each action before it's taken, maybe they don't need to interrupt Claude as much, whereas when those experienced users use auto-approval more liberally, there's more of a context for them to step in. However, there also might be a sort of learned experience here as well. They write, the higher interrupt rate may also reflect active monitoring by users who have more honed instincts for when their intervention is needed, with the idea being that the new users simply don't know when to intervene as much. I think one comparison here is that if you view AI as sort of a junior employee, it earns trust over time. That's the shift from the 20% to 40% auto-approval rate. But as you get more comfortable with it, you also intervene more, checking in on the work as it's happening and reorienting to make sure you get the most out of things rather than just waiting to see the end product to judge its success in that way. Now, although these measures are about the human intervention,
that's fair. That makes perfect sense.
This is not a static number across models. In other words, model capability does impact this. Anthropic writes that from August to December of last year, as Claude Code's success rate on internal users' most challenging tasks doubled, the average number of human interventions per session decreased from 5.4 to 3.3. Basically, as the models get better, users grant Claude more autonomy and achieve better outcomes while needing to intervene less. Now, when it comes to autonomy, we're talking about an interaction set and a conversation between the model and harness Claude Code and the humans using that model. Human intervention is only one of the directions in which autonomy can unfold in practice. Claude, as they write, is an active participant too, stopping to ask for clarification when it's unsure how to proceed. Anthropic found that as task complexity increased, Claude Code would ask for clarification more often and more frequently than humans actually chose to interrupt it. For example, for turns where there was high goal complexity, humans interrupted Claude 7.1% of the time, while Claude asked for clarification more than double that, 16.4% of the time. That compares to minimal goal complexity, where humans interrupted 5.5% of the time, with Claude asking for clarification 6.6% of the time. In other words, the gap between how much humans intervene and how...
Yeah, like, how long has it been, Nick, since we, like, there was the thing about telling it what kind of character it was supposed to roleplay, right? And then it was, if you say please and thank you was the order of the day. Then it was, maybe it works better if you're mean to it.
Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
What up, Raiders? Ladies and gentlemen, and NBs of all ages. This is Zilla, the homie. Real life homie. You should be following. I can streaming. So many of you love the Shoggy emote. This is the creator of Shoggy. Yeah, I had to cut it way back, homie. I had to cut it way back. It was a whole thing. Y'all should be following Zilla. They do video games, art. They're a fantastic human being. We've known each other decades. They appeared on one of the early conversation streams talking about AI, responsible for the quote about we taught hammers how to suffer. Absolutely first class human being. What do we got here? What up, Switch the Writer? What up, Tara the Esper? Lee Tiwaz, welcome in. Finvara, what up? Nathleen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, welcome in. I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech, and I prepare you for the future that's coming, whether you're a fan of it or not. This is a space where we talk about the news, we talk about the things that were happening, and you don't have to like AI to be here. I want you to know what's happening. The education is more important than your approval. We have people in here who are not fans of AI, but they want to keep abreast, and they don't want the bullshit that goes along with some people. There are people in here who are AI enthusiasts. I am an AI enthusiast. And then there's people in the middle. We are a supportive environment. We love all the homies, trans rights are humans' rights and all that. Like, we love everybody. Just come in good faith and have good interactions, and you're more than welcome here. And if not, I completely understand, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. We're currently watching a video about how people actually use AI agents, and yeah.
How much Claude asks for clarification increases alongside the complexity of the.
Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we're more than happy to answer them. There are people in chat who are highly knowledgeable. There are coders in chat. There are a variety of different people with different skill sets. Oh, you know how long it's been since I had pasta? I want pasta. Take care, Zilla.
The task.
What up, X1011? Yes, also gay luxury space communism.
However, these aren't exactly direct measures, as humans interrupt Claude and Claude interrupts itself for different reasons. The number one reason that humans interrupt Claude is to provide missing context or corrections. That's 32% of the time, about a third. 17% of the time it was because Claude was slow or hanging, with every other reason being much less frequent. In terms of when Claude stops itself, the most common reason, at a little above a third, at 35%, is to present the user with a choice between different approaches, which is interesting because that's not really a knock on its own autonomy, in the sense that it doesn't necessarily need that information to proceed, as it could theoretically just make the decision for itself, but a way to better align with humans on the upfront. Now, the one other really interesting chart is the chart of which domains agents are deployed in. As you might expect, especially given that this is anchored by Claude Code, software engineering represents around half of the tool calls overall. And although the other categories are all below 10%, they kind of read like a map of where agentic automation is likely to come next. Back office automation is at number 2 at 9.1%, followed by marketing and copywriting at 4.4, sales and CRM at 4.3, finance and accounting at 4.0. It is notable that even at this early stage, with coding and engineering tasks being the clear breakout, you're still already seeing more than 50% of tool calls, in other words, more than 50% of agentic use cases being outside of that software engineering domain. This is a pretty simple study overall, but a really valuable complement in my estimation to the meter study, as it moves away from the realm of the theoretical and into the realm of what people are actually using agents for and how they're actually interacting with them. There are a few interesting implications that people picked up on. David Hendrickson wrote, "What's most surprising from the paper is that real-world AI agents are currently given much less autonomy than they could technically handle. In other words, we had to go to the 99.9th percentile to really see what Claude could do, despite the fact that the average turn is just 45 seconds. We've talked a lot on the show about a capability overhang, and it looks like this is another example of that in practice, even with some of the most advanced tools in the space.
Coding received the big drive, right? The big push. But it is in those, like edge cases that you're going to see as people become more comfortable. And as he's saying now, with like, people are not necessarily comfortable with just letting the AI go and do the job. There's still a lot of skepticism. What up, trans women? CEO trans women. There's a lot of skepticism that the stories of I did this and it provided all this false data, and the chief technical officer had us in a meeting for an hour and they were citing reports that didn't actually exist, all that kind of stuff. That shit lives in people's minds. And they don't want to be that guy. They don't want to be that story on X, on LinkedIn, of the person who did a whole presentation and it was all filled with hallucinations and fabrications. So they give much less autonomy to the agent, right? And they're just, okay, do this task. And then I know you did the task correct, so I'm going to give you another one. Now I know, and it speaks to people's like management style of like, how would you be if you had a group of employees underneath you, or even one employee underneath you, and you were training them and teaching them and try to get them up to speed? How much do you let them do their job without your intervention,
Another interesting takeaway is about a shift in our thinking of autonomy, from purely based on model capability to this more complex view of model capability plus human interactive state. Yongri Su writes, "Autonomy is not just steps taken, it is permission, scope, and ability to change state. The other thing that people are exploring is, based on all this, what they actually want the interactive mode to look like in the future." Richie on X, for example, writes, "Need a Claude code mode that isn't exactly dangerously skip permissions, but can skip pointless do you want to proceed questions, and at the same time doesn't nuke my entire database and family tree." Lorenzo responds, "What you want is competent autonomy. Claude can skip pointless prompts while respecting blast radius boundaries so dev stays sane and prod stays intact." Now, one thing to watch for is how much the emphasis in the next set of developments is more improved interactions or a totally different paradigm of long-duration autonomy. In a recent podcast with Lenny, OpenAI's Sherwin Wu argued, as the AI Future Brief put it, that the next leap in AI isn't just smarter models, but long-duration autonomy. While today's tools are optimized for short bursts, tomorrow's tools will be agents you dispatch for 6+ hours of independent work. Right now, as Anthropic shows, that certainly isn't how people are using these tools, but it does appear that things are evolving fast. Overall, a very valuable study and a great way to see what's happening in practice. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace.
All right. Shifting gears. We're going over to Gabriel Torch, new GT. Like, he had to be doing it on purpose, right? At this point in time, I'm saying he was doing it on purpose. I've been like interspersed through the past couple weeks of streams talking about like memory stuff and things like that. We talked about I showed you the song about HAL, talked about there is no anti-memetics division, all that kind of stuff. Today in Horrors Beyond Human Understanding, someone got all the wrong lessons from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Deleting unpleasant memories or experiences is quite possible, and some ethicists are concerned about what that means for the human race, and we'll talk about it. Conditions like broken heart syndrome can literally weaken your heart and cause cardiomyopathy, which is an enlarging of the heart under extreme stress. Now, we do know that you can delete memories entirely from a brain. This requires that you look at the brain, understand the pathways that are evoked when the animal experiences something, and you are able to turn them off. Theoretically, you could absolutely do that in people, but it's not enough. Now, there is a reason that it takes people on average 8 years to fully get over a relationship. That's because there are actual brain changes that occur. One of the ones that I touched on was the upregulation of fear, which means when you are around that person, your amygdala downregulates, and when you're with them, you feel less afraid. So you are perceiving their absence as a physical threat, and that causes long-term brain changes. Now, because people asked if you have borderline personality disorder or ADHD, these kinds of phenomena can be upregulated, meaning it is so much worse, but honestly, it hasn't been studied in as much depth as it has been in the average person, and even then, not that much. And there's multiple different outcomes with ADHD. People can attach too much and hyperfixate, or you can just not attach at all. And no one's entirely sure why these things happen, just different ways that the brain processes rewards. Now let's assume we just deleted the memory. That would require genetic engineering of our own neurons in order to turn them off. That is possible. But if you lost the memory, you still have the physiological reaction and the pain. It would be like still reacting to something, but just having no idea what you're reacting to. You would have.
Is that worse? That feels worse, right? It feels worse. One of the appreciations that I have for There Is No Anti-Memetics Division is it's not when someone's under the whatever event that causes them to forget about something, they don't just forget about that thing and it creates that weird hole like happens in a lot of science fiction that deals with this kind of stuff, but it actually like extends outward and gets rid of all the things, excuse me, that are related to that, right? So it pulls all those threads out. What is that worse?
To make sure that you got rid of the actual pain associated with this memory, and this is great because it's non-invasive, which means it can be applied to all sorts of things, including PTSD. You can take an adult person and you can stimulate parts of the brain that are involved with relief from pain transcranially, and that actually does help people deal with social rejection. This is the one that we think of when we associate with romantic rejection. There are real clinical trials that are applying these sorts of treatments to people who are experiencing. There are real clinical trials going on right.
Respect for keeping your edits in there. It's been a long time since I saw the movie that I didn't even remember that Elijah Wood was in it.
Right now using these kinds of interventions for people who are experiencing grief. If you've gone through a breakup and it's really hit you hard, or say you lost someone that you love, there could actually be a treatment out there that helps, and this would be a lot more helpful than just deleting memories. When it comes to the ethics around this, I'm a little bit conflicted because on the one hand, there are people who have PTSD and trauma and depression, and you have the ability to really improve their lives, to maybe kind of undo that thing that's keeping them from really living. On the other hand, if you are messing with somebody's neural circuitry, you are going to change them, and not in a way that they can consent to or understand what it will look like on the other side. So I don't think this technology shouldn't exist, but I think we need to treat it really carefully, and fortunately, that seems to be the case. I don't know. I'm gonna keep my memories. I don't think I would take a treatment for grief. How about you?
And Mark Ruffalo, you can't consent because you can't understand the outcome, right? you can't really consent to the thing. It's a weird where you're getting into the definition of consent and everything else. It's like, if you ever given someone a psychedelic experience for the first time, they can't really fully consent to it because they don't know what kind of experience they're going to have, which is why set and setting is so important. Having a guide is so important. All that kind of things. You know what I mean? That's why, like, you need to look at it from other angles rather than just like, because I see where you're coming from. You ask them and they say yes, that's consent, right? But if you take that step back and ask yourself, how would this not be consent? Like, what? Then you can start getting into these kind of examples. You know what I mean? You don't know what kind of trip it will be, right? Like, you may have some unresolved trauma that comes out in the middle of a psychedelic experience, and you were not prepared for that. And if you don't have a guide, if you don't have the right set and setting, then, like, you know, people have a bad time. What up, Matt? Is this Stampy Simulator? No, Stampy just got their snag and fucked up. Does this mean these things shouldn't be done because people cannot really properly consent? It's why the ethics of it are so challenging, right? Because think about yourself. Think about yourself in the context of a bad breakup that you had where you wish you could forget about that person. And think about yourself with some distance from that event and how that event made part of you the person that you are today, right? Maybe you were a bad person, right? Like, I wasn't always a good person. I had to learn, I had to go through a journey and everything else, right? So, like, I had bad relationships and bad relationships that ended, and they were at least somewhat, if not fully, my fault for, you know, that kind of thing. And I wouldn't, if I had not had those experiences, I would not be the person that I am today, right? So it's like, how do you know the long-term effects of the changing of the memory, the loss of the experience, that kind of thing? And that's all you can do, Nabil. That's all you can do. Accept responsibility and continue to improve. You know what I mean? It just means it's a very complex trade-off, not necessarily people should be forbidden from doing it. Right. And I agree, right? Like, I'm sure there are circumstances that it could be argued that the benefits, especially in cases of like PTSD and things of that nature, and other forms of trauma, that the potential benefits outweigh any potential side effect, right? Depending on the person and everything else. Like, there are reasons I can see why you would want it as a tool in the kit, just probably not the first one that you go for, kind of thing. All right. The dude with the great hair and the great beard is going to tell us why space data centers are dumb.
If threatening economic collapse and the annihilation of human civilization weren't enough, AI data centers are now presenting a new problem: resources. A large data
And I would like to point out that, yes, even though Elon Musk said he wants to put data centers in space, and people think that anything that Elon Musk does is automatically a bad idea, and fair, like, I understand how you reach that, the Chinese government is also looking to put data centers in space. So if you happen to be a fan of the Chinese government,
data center will now put out enough heat for 100,000 homes into an increasingly hot atmosphere and slurp up enough water.
And it's that kind of thing. Is like, is there any way that we can access that to heat the 100,000 homes, right? Like, is there something could we recapture this stuff instead of just throwing it away?
For 1,000 families. Obviously, something is going to have to give if we want to continue to build out this infrastructure that no one actually wants. That's why recently some AI...
I hate that kind of shit. I hate hyperbolic, over-the-top statements. Nobody actually wants this. No, there are people who actually want this, right? I want more infrastructure. I want more of a variety of infrastructure. Data centers are part of it. I just want them to be built in a better way, right? Like, it's the way that we're doing the thing that's the problem, not the thing in and of itself.
Tech bros have suggested moving data centers here to space, but that's a stupid idea for almost every reason. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. Here's why.
Now entering the facility.
The idea of space-side AI data centers seems almost exclusively popularized by tech billionaires who believe that they would be doing physics if they weren't so busy not paying taxes. And if you don't understand simple physics, the idea does sound pretty smart. AI data centers need a lot of cooling, space is really cold. Boom! AI data centers need a lot of power, there's infinite power from the sun in space. Boom! AI data centers need a lot of space, space has all of that. Boom! You're welcome, shareholders. But like other very futuristic but ultimately totally impractical megastructures, AI data centers fall down as an idea if you know the physics.
Don't you also fake being a physicist?
Yes, Arya, but hoarding the equivalent of an entire country's wealth isn't the main reason why people take me seriously. It's the smolder. Ooh, try to resist that. You can't. I won the staring contest. I did. Let's start with the most reasonable reasons for space data centers and work towards the least, as they are all intertwined. Some SDC proponents make the case that moving artificial intelligence into space would be a boon for satellites that right now collect a lot of Earth observation data and then beam it down to the planet for processing. If that processing could be done by GPU clusters in space instead, it would make everything a lot faster and more efficient. This seems like a fine but niche use case. However, what makes the headlines are not
See, the physics of heat and cold in space, and I'm not an expert, but like the physics of heat and cold in space, because of the vacuum, are different than the physics of heat and cold in an atmosphere where you have a medium of heat transfer. The problem with space is that you need a medium of heat transfer, and like the radiators on the International Space Station are immense, right? It's a whole, and there's a lot of science in there.
The niche cases, but mega to gigawatt-sized AI installations in orbit, doing what they do on Earth.
We'll push right here.
Like make stupid chiropractic videos and destabilize the world economy. And almost everything about this idea is intro to engineering level wrong. There are three ways to transfer heat in this universe. The first is by conduction. Through innumerable energy-conserving collisions, two objects in contact will reach an equilibrium temperature with each other as their atoms jiggle against one another. The second way is convection. This is like conduction, except that heat is moving from one place to another via the movement of fluids, like air swirling around a sweet Turk in the oven or water flowing past you in a pool. That's why a summer swim is so refreshing. Water is a very good conductor, and new water is constantly conducting heat away from your body as you move.
You looked especially refreshed after that one time.
It was cold, Arya, okay? It's not always... Moving on. There's basically nothing in space.
Citation needed.
So the dominant mode of heat transfer in the void is the third way, radiation. Everything with a temperature emits radiation as charged particles in matter speed up, slow down, excite, de-excite, and release energy in the form of photons of light as they do so. However, this is the least efficient way to transfer heat energy around. And so the main reason that everyone gives for moving data centers to space, cooling, is either ignorant of thermodynamics or ignoring it. We can put numbers to this because we already have stuff in space with significant cooling challenges. According to the AI ruining Google search, the very best GPUs put out about 1,000 watts of waste heat.
Disagree.
That's about 10
about the AI ruining search.
times more waste heat than your body produces, which is kind of crazy to think about. Today's data centers can have more than 100,000 of these GPUs, which means 100 million watts of heat that has to go somewhere. Why not space? Well, the biggest and best heat radiating technology that we have in space is on the International Space Station. The radiators are right here in between the solar panels and have a surface area of 42 square meters. According to NASA, this area can reject around 14,000 watts of heat into deep space. Do you see the problem? It's with the number of zeros. To cool just one space data center like we do the ISS would require over 7,000 times the surface area, 300,000 square meters. This is the size of the International Space Station, and this would be the size of a single space data center with the requisite cooling panels. The ISS was the most expensive construction project in human history, and you're telling me that to solve the AI resource problem, we're going to put hundreds or even thousands of these monstrosities into orbit in 5 to 10 years with current technology?
Again, like the hyperbolic language. I don't consider these monstrosities. I think that the fucking ISS is gorgeous. It just like what I understand.
Someone slept through Thermodynamics 101.
But Kyle, shouldn't we at least move AI data centers to space so that they can have infinite sun energy and not use any of our energy on Earth?
Actually, Fun Voice, no. And for the same simple reason. Surface area. Most of you have never been to space, but that doesn't mean that you don't know how heat transfer in space actually works. In fact, I'd reckon that many of you have had first-hand experience with it. Case in point, this is a thermos. This is my Yeti thermos. It's fantastic. You can also get these cool Demon Core and nuclear waste warning sign stickers at shop.kylehill.net. Anyway, how a thermos like this can keep ice cubes ice for like 24 hours is the fact that they use the vacuum, just like space has. So inside of this Yeti thermos, you have two stainless steel walls. In between those walls is nothing. It has been evacuated of air. Now, because of this, there is no physical medium through which you can have conduction or convection. So on the inside, on the inner wall, you have ice water, and then you have nothingness, and then you have this outer wall exposed to the environment. Because this inner
That I don't know that it's actually a vacuum in there. It could be. I'm not sure. But I was thinking of double pane windows, right? A lot of houses have newer windows that are double pane, 2 panes of glass, and in between, they remove the air so that it doesn't transmit heat one way or the other. The problem is when you do that with glass, glass has a certain amount of flexibility to the point where it could eventually break. So they put what's called an inert gas in between the two of them to maintain the air pressure. I'm not sure if they do that for vacuum bottles. I'm not sure if they do that for Yetis, but it is possible.
interstitial space is effectively the vacuum of space. Heat can only transfer through radiation, meaning that heat transfers very slowly, meaning that your water stays cold. In fact, I've done some calculations about heating and cooling in space before, and I think it would take the human body, which is mostly water, like over a day, if not many more days, to freeze all the way through if you ejected a body into outer space, which hasn't happened yet? Anyway, it's fun engineering examples like this that brings the void a little bit closer to the vacuum that is your mouth. That's how you drink stuff. You create a vacuum in your whatever. Ah, I forgot to put ice in it. You get it. Yes, there's a giant fusion reactor in the sky, but getting power in space isn't exactly a walk-on cake, or whatever humans say. Solar power is good, but it requires a lot of surface area, and the panels themselves are heavy, and that makes them expensive to get into orbit. Chemical fuel is very energy dense, but it's also very heavy and therefore expensive.
You're going to say something about nuclear power now, aren't you?
No, Arya. Even the nuclear technology that we currently have in space, radioisotope thermoelectric generators, are relatively weak in the amount of electricity that they can produce. So, how are we going to actually make all those short films that get ratioed on Twitter by moving those hot, giant racks to space?
Excuse me?
GPUs, Arya. What did you think I meant? The best comparison is again the International Space Station. It has the largest solar panels ever deployed in space, two 1,000 kilogram retractable blankets of 33,000 solar arrays each. These engineering marvels can produce 200 kilowatts of power in direct sunlight. An NVIDIA H200 GPU draws 700 watts at full slop. You don't have to act like you understand physics to do the simple math here. Just line up the zeros. It would take at least 300 ISS-sized solar arrays to power just one large space data center, and probably many more than that, due to inefficiencies, cooling, redundancies, etc. You're telling me that in the next few years we're going to successfully launch nearly 500,000 kilograms into space per data center safely, efficiently, and economically?
Really? Really? Really?
This is not a serious idea for serious people, and honestly, it's exhausting. We are constantly stuck in a loop of some guy with too much money proposing something ridiculous, and we all have to waste our time.
A Dyson sphere or a Dyson swarm is not ridiculous. It's just well beyond our level of technology.
Hearing about it, the news has to waste their time covering it, and scientists have to waste their time backtracking to first principles and interviews about it. It's just
Deep breaths, big man. Hey, why don't you talk about radiation? You love that.
Oh yeah, good thinking. Radiation in space may not immediately incapacitate astronauts, but if space data centers are to constantly and carefully process terabytes of data in the void, radiation in space and in orbit is going to be a real risk to sensitive electronics and data integrity. An unstoppable solar storm wiping out the majority of humanity's compute in just a day seems like a bad thing. And the shielding against that thing is going to be heavy and therefore expensive and therefore hard to get into space. Honestly, space is one of the last places where I'd want the majority of humanity's digital throughput to be. It's hard to get stuff there, it's hard to power stuff there, it's hard to maintain stuff there, it's hard to move stuff there out of the way if debris is heading at it at Mach. It's going to be hard for astronomers to see stuff in the night sky if they're filled with all these shareholder-driven monstrosities with these giant panels so many times larger than the International Space Station. Why are we still talking about this? Sorry, I was slop mopping again. Look, data centers in space is a fun idea, but it's a sci-fi idea like space elevators or Dyson spheres. If all of the oxygen wasn't continuously being sucked out of the room by money vampires, we could entertain better ideas. For example, some companies are looking to put AI data centers at the bottom of the ocean, where it's really cold, there's excellent conduction and convection, and there's near infinite water for cooling.
To which I would immediately respond, but then doesn't that increase the temperature of the ocean, which is generally speaking a bad idea, right? Like it sounds good, but I can find the holes in the thing. The other problem is because they're at the bottom of the ocean. One of the one of the issues that you run into is latency, and latency is a huge issue in computing and analysis, or yeah, and the use of the AI data centers, right? Like you want to reduce latency, not increase it. So yes, while there are some advantages to putting them into the water, and then there's the pressure at depth, right? Like just put on a rubber glove and stick your hand in a tub of water, and you'll see the and feel the that water pressure. Not just multiply that by thousands of times. And it's good for ridding yourself of billionaires. It's not necessarily where you want to put your data center.
But they're being drowned out by all this other stuff that we're forced to hear about, or, and this is just a thought, we could not cover the entire world in GPUs that we don't want. But what do I know? I don't have big crazy ideas that'll never work. Until next time.
Administrator, the antimatter ramjet Venusian apartment levitator is ready for testing.
You'll see. In 5 to 10 years, we'll have them. I'll talk about it on a podcast and get $1 billion. You'll see. You're just not kind of playing the chess that I'm playing. I'm playing.
I mean, that's an idea, Sir Didymus, but then again, you're getting into the issue of latency.
4D chess. You're such a. I'm Sigma. I'm a Sigma. You're not Sigmas.
Now exiting the facility.
Thank you so much to the very nerdy staff here at the facility for their direct and substantial support in the creation of this here video. If you want to join the facility, if you want videos early.
Yeah, like there was a lot of good points to be made, and had it been done with a little less hyperbole, I would have been happier with it. But generally speaking, that's why you don't want to put them in space. We have been using submarine communication cables, but latency is a thing. Latency is a thing. That's why when you're playing whatever your favorite game is that's multiplayer, ping is an issue, right? Like it's all that kind of thing. All right, what do we get next? New channel we haven't watched before, comparing 4 different AI video models.
4 AI video generators. Which one is the best? Clink 3.0 versus Cdance 2.0 versus Sora 2 versus Veo 3.1. 20 brutal prompts without me talking, just pure videos. Let's begin.
I told you the code stays with me until I see the money. 现在，把箱子打开，别让我再说第二遍。
I told you, the code stays with me until I see the money. 现在，把箱子打开，别让我再说第二遍。
I told you, the code stays with me until I see the money. 现在，把箱子打开，别让我再说第二遍。
I told you, the code stays with me until I see the money. 现在，把箱子打开，别让我再说第二遍。
I love how it was attempting to resolve the physics. What up, Fire Resist? So the physics on Sora were like the most accurate.
Where are the pilots? I have to take control.
Come on. Pull up!
I'm trying. Stay with me, stay with me.
Nice left now. You got traffic at 2 miles.
That's okay.
Hit him with the nussy.
Finish him! Divine judgment. The Empire! They meet in the center. Harry Smart Fly. The General's already pressing. Chakram toss. Clips him. He answers with a solar sweep, pushing her to the wall.
I am so sorry.
I am so sorry.
I am so sorry.
Can't let them catch me!
Stop! Please, out of the way!
What up, Lenny?
He's heading north! Stay on him! Stop running! Come on, move! He's going to the alley! Don't lose him!
That's Marvel. Yes, they are. They are funny, but totally unintentionally. This reminds me so much of the Fantastic Four movie. It's the morphing. So I'm looking at the details, right? Like, you know, like the first, this video, when you watch, like the head will just be facing in the other direction, that kind of thing. Right? Right there. And it looks super weird. The Sea Dance one maintains orientations extremely well. It's very impressive. And then there's this. Oh, I like that. That was pretty good. I have no idea. I think that there are people working on exactly that kind of thing, straight dope. There's still some challenges of maintaining character consistency, even though that's far improved. And people who create, there might be a disconnect, and there probably is a disconnect between the people who create AI videos and the people who know how to properly edit a movie, you know? But I assume that there's a few of them out there. No, this is what this guy, this channel, Dom the AI tutor, used all 4 of these models, and then these are his prompts down at the bottom. Yeah. No, and like this is exactly the apples to apples comparison that we should be seeing.
In a world of marvels, some creatures defy all expectations. This is the incredible story of the pilot otter.
Here we observe a truly remarkable sight. The sleek river otter, miles from shore, trusts its...
Among the riverbanks of the northern forest lives an animal built for water. But today, this otter is aiming for the skies. Outfitted with goggles and an aviation headset, she pilots a float plane with the same assurance she shows in the current. From glacial valleys to windswept tundra,
That was nice.
So this is rush hour in Chongqing, and yeah, that's a cat. A really big one. It's stuck between the towers, poor guy. Look at those paws. Wait, watch this. Bus driver's just gonna pet him. Oh, there goes everyone's hats. Bless you, big fella. And now he's blocking the whole bridge. Guess
Okay, I'd watch this. Are you asking, Straight Dope, if I could take, like, this scene and then put it into some sort of AI or some sort of video editing software and then edit it further? If so, yes.
Target's on our left! Keep them busy. I'll handle the rest. We're pulling ahead! Not for long. Firing! She's juiced up! Then juice harder. Copy. Let's finish this.
Oh, can you? Well, I mean, there are video editors that can edit footage with AI. What up, Digital? Take footage I filmed and edit and then run through the AI to add effects. I'm going to say yes. I think Adobe's suite offers exactly that. I know, like, one of the things that you can do is like let's say there's a gap in your film that was, cut too soon. You can have the AI generate that missing footage. And yeah, I believe you can also do the same with effects and whatnot. Remember when AI couldn't do glasses of wine? So yeah, I think that channel, might have some potential answers to your questions, Straight Dope. Based on what I saw there. We just watched number go up to 17K. Rick Beato, Ricky Bobby. I'm sick of this AI shit.
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. So a friend of mine sent me this LA Times article that I'm chuckling about now that I just read, and it goes like this. Sienna Rose has achieved a level of breakout stardom envied by musicians everywhere. Over the last 4 months, she's developed a fan base of more than 4 million monthly Spotify listeners. That's impressive. Her star has risen in tandem with that of Olivia Dean, a fellow neo-soul vocalist who took home this year's Grammy for Best New Artist. Rose's Spotify biography extols her as not just a performer, but a storyteller at heart, singing every word with a sense of truth and beauty. But Rose didn't attend the Grammys earlier this month because she's neither a neo-soul artist nor the possessor of a soul to begin with. She is AI, top to bottom, an algorithmic interpretation of real artists in a genre it was built to exploit and ultimately replace. It goes on to say, AI-generated songs now make up nearly 40% of music uploaded to streaming services daily. These songs are becoming more impressive by the day, too. In one study, only 3% of respondents could reliably distinguish between AI-generated and human-generated music. As of late January, 6 of Spotify's top 50 trending songs in the US were fully AI-generated. Okay, so what does Sienna Rose actually sound like? I'll play a little bit of her song, Into the Blue.
You by my side, into the blue. I'm falling with you.
Okay, you get the idea. So anytime I hear that something is possibly AI, I click on their Instagram to see what's going on there. So I click on the link provided here in Spotify, and it brings me to this page, Sienna Rose, who has 35 posts and 6,971 followers. That's not very many followers for someone with about 4 million monthly listeners. Should be way more than that. So as a point of comparison, let's look at another artist that's in
Oh, should it? Is that how that works?
the same style, like a kind of neo-soul. This is Victoria Monet. She has 3.7 million monthly listeners. Here's one of her songs. On My Mama. Now, unlike Sienna Rose, this song has 192 million plays. She also has a song called Monopoly that's got 202 million plays. That's the amount of plays you would expect for someone that has 4 million monthly listeners. And if you go to her Instagram, she has 2.1 million followers there, which is what you would expect with a real human being. If we go back to Sienna Rose's Instagram and you click these 3 buttons to see about her account, it says date joined 2022, account based in Norway. Well, if you hear her talk, I'm not saying anything, but if you watch this video.
So I keep seeing these comments everywhere. She's AI. Well, I feel real. And I hope the 3 million people listening feel the same.
Okay, so what's the deal? Why is Spotify pushing this crap? I mean, is it possible that she's a real artist? I guess it's possible that she only has 11 million plays of her biggest song on here and that she has 4 million monthly listeners, and these other people that have 4
Rick is the arbiter of that which is plausible.
million monthly listeners have songs with hundreds of millions of plays. That's possible. It's possible that she has 6,900 Instagram followers when someone that has the same amount of monthly listeners on Spotify has 2 million. It's possible.
I mean, like, not saying that Rick did this. These numbers could all be, like, accurate within the average, right? Like, that you should have around these numbers and around these numbers and around these numbers. Totally could be legit. It's also possible that Rick is cherry picking in order to make a point. We don't know. We don't have enough context. We don't have enough data. He showed us 2 accounts. One is AI. and one is not. And he compares the two. If I were so inclined, I could do the exact same thing, probably in the inverse. It would just take me a minute to find the proper AI music account that had a whole bunch of Instagram, or maybe people who like AI music don't use Instagram, because that's a thing that happens, right? No, none of the kids are using Facebook anymore, right? Maybe the kids aren't using Instagram anymore. Maybe there's only a certain segment of people using Instagram anymore.
Possible that her videos are real and that she's a real person that lives in Norway. It's possible that Norway has magical disappearing door frames. And it's possible that Deezer accidentally labeled it as AI, but it's real. But it's not likely. Why is Spotify pushing stuff that appears to be AI?
Capitalism.
And not labeling it. I'll tell you, people don't want to listen to it. People that I know, if they know that it's...
There it is. People that I know don't want to listen to this. Nobody wants this. Because the people I know don't want it.
It's AI, they don't want to waste their time listening to it. Some of you might say, hey, but it's a good song. Okay, fine.
I would say so, Straight Dope. It's just, I always try to stand in the position of, you know, the plausibility of any particular outcome, right? I try to be Bayesian about the entire thing. I'm just like, this is possible, that is possible. What is the more likely thing? Whenever somebody shows me a very small amount of data, I'm going to assume that they chose those particular data points on purpose.
Fine. It may be a great song, but I want to know what I'm listening to. Do you want to know what you're eating? There is a reason they put the...
Like what kind of electronic song? Beef, were you here when I played some of my Army of 12 Monkeys tracks?
Ingredients on things, because you don't want to be eating a bunch of crap. I had some Twizzlers yesterday, okay, I admit it. At least on Twizzlers, it says artificially flavored, and it has a bunch of fake things in the ingredients.
No, all the things in the ingredients are real things. Because you can't eat fake things. Like, I don't know. What could I eat that's fake? Nothing here is fake.
And I know I'm eating dyes and sugar and just a bunch of crap that's not real. I want to know that I'm...
No, it's real. Sugar is real. Sugar is real. Dude, portions of our economy are built around it. I'm being pedantic because he's being a dick. You can't eat a digital thing. This is true. Whoop. Beef, tell me what you think of this.
Syncopated breath, a static genetic ghost. A phantom architecture built of things we've suffered most. The architecture's fracturing, a fractal in the tactile sky. A practical denial of the actual, the reason why. We're bleeding from the sinuses are tightening. The irony of lightning is it's frighteningly whitening the space where memories used to dwell. The visual cortex is a hollow, ringing, silent bell. There is no anti-memetics division, just a hole in the data where the log it should be. A cataract forming on the eye that can see. Subtracting the facts for the friction of vision. Precision forgotten in the blur of the schism. We forget what we fought. We forget we were even loved. There is no anti-memetics division. Who is Bart Hughes? Try to map the void, but the void avoids the voyager. A poison little destroyer. I'm wasting mental employer. Is an ideatic parasite, an apex predator thought, consuming every lesson that the predecessors taught. The rhythm stutters 5-4, then it collapses into 3. A temporal anomaly, a cognitive autophagy. I'm wearing class W's like a second skin to get muckles in, to keep the unthing out and keep the isness in. It's not a secret, it's a shape you can't remember.
So yeah, like, and again, like different people are gonna set, you know, your standard wherever, and it's valid. And I'm not trying to disprove, like, yeah, how you want to feel about the thing. Like, maybe this isn't the song for you.
I have laser eyes now. In the future, you just have to upgrade yourself.
But I'm just like, the capabilities are impressive. And again, I put this on in the car. Good speakers. This shit fucking bumps for me, right? For me, it's that kind of thing. Trance and techno.
The ghost lights on, the bit rate steady, the desktop's
That's not it. Did I not like it? Hold on. Hold on. There is no anti-memetics division. No, if I didn't want to derail, first of all, I always look for an excuse to show off my Suno songs. And if I didn't want to derail, I just wouldn't. It's more house, but
ghost lights on, the bitch rate steady, the desktop's about up and it's not ready. Tito's in his bag, he's the real star of the show. About to be Republicans to grow. The mods are free range, roaming through the lines, keeping things chill while the neon shines. 'Cause Jake's fully in and then down on your screen. The strangest corner of the web you've ever seen. The chatty's delightful, the vibes are just right. Log it on to stay a while and fight through the light.
and That just a sustain on that voice going into the thing. So yeah, like, and there's a variety of. I never played this for y'all, and I want to. A friend of mine and I, like, they came up with the theme, and I did the AI stuff to it, and
Found you smoking by the dive bar door, talking about the towns we're running from. You said, I'm tired of playing it safe anymore. I said, me too, where should we run? Hey, do you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer? Throw our old selves in the rearview mirror. We could dye hair in a basement, bathroom, leave behind everything they told us we should fear. Hey, you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer?
Now they came up with that line. Well, get your septum pierced and be a queer. And they said it so matter-of-factly. I was like, that is great. We need to immortalize that in song.
My mama says I'm going through a phase. My daddy won't pick up the phone. But I never felt more myself than these days in this shitty apartment that we call home. Hey, do you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer? Throw our old selves in the rearview mirror. We could dye our hair in a basement, bathroom, leave behind everything they told us we should fear. Hey, do you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer? They say we're lost, we're confused, we're just kids. But I've never been more found than this, with a shopping cart full of stolen beer and the courage to finally be here. Hey, do you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer? Throw our old selves in the rearview mirror. We could start a band in someone's garage, scream out everything we need them to hear. Hey, do you want to get your septum pierced and be a queer? Oh, yeah, let's get our septums pierced and be queer. The future's uncertain, at least we're here.
I love that part. Makes me feel ways. Which AI product do I think does music the best? Suno. Hands down, no question. Suno is the best. Gemini actually, or Google released an update for Gemini that added Lyra 3, which is their model. I didn't even use it. Like, I was having Gemini help me with some lyrics, and it started to generate a song with Lyra, and I was like, stop, don't even bother. And that's not fair. I should check it out. But at the same time, I haven't even cracked the surface of all the things you can do with Suno, and I know how to make it work. You know what I mean? Yeah, the problem is with anything Google is you never know when it's going to end up on the trash heap. All right, Rick, play us out.
I'm listening to something that's not real, that wasn't created by...
No, it's real because the music happens and then it affects the air pressure and it goes into your ears, so it's real. It's just, it wasn't created by a human, except it was. Well, a human didn't make the noises, but the human doesn't make the noises, the piano and the drums. I don't know, something.
Human, but it was created from a bunch of actual real artists' real work. It's just a bunch of fragments stolen and recombined together to mimic something.
That's not how any of this works.
Something that is real. But it's not real. Somehow Spotify is letting this thing go and letting it gather what I assume is fake listeners. They may not be fake listeners, but I assume they're fake listeners just because it doesn't seem to obey the laws of gravity at all or any of the laws of physics compared to other real artists, because I look at charts all the time, and that doesn't look like a chart of someone that has
What up, sweet summer child 69?
Real followers. If I pick up a rock band, let's say you take somebody like Sleep Token, they've got 5.7 million monthly listeners. So about 1.7 million more. They have a song 150 million, 288 million, 140 million, 171 million plays on these songs with 5.7 million monthly listeners. Why is it that they have all these songs with hundreds of millions of plays, yet they only have about 1.7 million more monthly listeners? Is it possible that their fans are just way more engaged? Yes, it's possible.
Thank you.
But it's not likely.
Oh.
Love to know your thoughts. Leave a comment, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.
No. All right. We got to get out of here. We haven't rated Astro Canuck in a while. And they're talking Artemis. All right. I will be back. I gotta go. I gotta pee. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot. Always remember that Shaggy loves you. So do I. Be great.